Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports by the Lake. I'm your host Jake Bartko, and this is my co-host
Julian Howell.
And we are going to talk about the NFL today in episode 5. We're going to talk about a couple other topics that we don't normally discuss on the show. But let's start off with the NFL, Julian. The Pro Football Hall of Fame induction was a couple of weeks ago. There are some very notable names on this year's Hall of Fame induction ballot. Can you talk about those for a second?
Oh, sure. So, first I'll list the Hall of Famers. So, kicker Morton Anderson, running back Terrell Davis, safety Kenny Easley, owner of the Dallas Cowboys Jerry Jones, defensive end Jason Taylor, running back LaDainian Tomlinson, and quarterback Kurt Warner.
So there were 7 new inductees into the Hall of Fame this year, and as Julian said, there was quite a few notable ones that really stood out. First one being owner Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys. He's owned the team since 1989.
Yes.
They've won, 3 Super Bowls since then?
Yes, they have, and 5 Hall of Famers have played for the Cowboys since Jerry Jones has been the owner, including the triplets, who are Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, and Michael Irvin. Also Deion Sanders had a stint with the Cowboys, prime time. And Larry Allen as well, the offensive lineman.
Wow, so he's had 5 Hall of Famers under his ownership.
Yes.
That's pretty cool too. So 5 Hall of Famers, 3 Super Bowls. I think Jerry Jones is going to go down as one of the best owners in not only NFL history but sports history. The next person we have that really stands out to me is LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yes.
Of course, with the San Diego Chargers and the Jets at the end of his career. Just some of his statistics, he rushed for almost 14,000 rushing yards. He had 145 touchdowns in his career rushing. He had almost 5,000 receiving yards and 17 receiving TDs. The stat that a lot of people don't know is he actually had 7 passing touchdowns in his career, which is really unique for a running back.
Yeah, I think in one of those games in particular, he's one of the only players to throw a touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown in one game. So it's really impressive. He was just really a dynamic player. Whenever he had the ball, magic was going to happen. I remember in 2006 when he won the MVP, he scored 28 rushing touchdowns. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that year very keenly. I was amazed. I was like, what? 28 rushing touchdowns. But yes, he's known for a very versatile back, and obviously that's why he made it to 5 Pro Bowls. He was the 2006 NFL MVP as well. So LT, that's another notable Hall of Fame inductee. And then the last one that I think really stands out is Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner has a great story. He was actually a worker in a grocery store bagging groceries at one point, and the next thing he knew, he was winning a Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams. So it's really a feel-good story with Kurt Warner. Of course, he was a quarterback. He had over 32,000 passing yards in his career with 208 touchdown passes. He made it to the Pro Bowl, I believe, 4 times. So that's pretty cool. I think his career is historic as well. And again, it's a really cool story how he started. He was a grocer, and then he became a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh yeah, I think it's also important to mention that he's also one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever. He completed 65.5% of his passes, which is the 4th best ever. And he's also in the Arena Football Hall of Fame. He's the only player to be inducted into both the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Arena Football Hall of Fame. And I also read a really interesting article about Kurt Warner. A lot of people don't know this, but he was actually undrafted into the NFL. He started off with the Green Bay Packers, and it didn't last very long. He was released by the team, but on that Green Bay Packers team, Brett Favre was the starting quarterback. Mike Holmgren was the head coach, and Andy Reid and Steve Mariucci were both on that staff. And Steve Mariucci thought that Kurt Warner had potential to be a great quarterback, but he just wasn't ready at the moment. So just says a lot to Kurt Warner's toughness and perseverance as a football player and a person. So
I agree. It's really awesome to see something like that, and the character in a person really shine through in his career. So that's the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction for 2017. There were 7 new inductees this year. Let's move on to another off-season story, and that's really the Miami Dolphins quarterback situation. Last week, in preparing for the preseason game in training camp, their quarterback Ryan Tannehill actually hurt his knee. So the Dolphins are in win now mode. They really need a quarterback to step in, and they decided to sign Jay Cutler, formerly of the Chicago Bears. So Jay Cutler is one of the quarterbacks available, but we all know that another quarterback available is Colin Kaepernick. What do you think about this signing, Julian, and what do you think about the decision to sign Cutler over Kaepernick?
I mean, I was pretty surprised because Kaepernick is actively trying to break back into the NFL, and Jay Cutler was in retirement, so it kind of seems a little odd to ask someone to come out of retirement to play football when there's several quarterbacks available who still want to play.
Right.
So,
and not only several quarterbacks available, but several quarterbacks that have better statistics than Jay Cutler, that may even be better football players than Jay Cutler.
Well, I think with Jay Cutler, he never really was able to trim down the interceptions, and when he was traded from the Denver Broncos to the Chicago Bears in 2009, he was considered a top 5 quarterback. And we never really saw that in Chicago. But in 2015, when Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, Jay Cutler had his one of his best seasons in terms of his touchdown to interception ratio. He threw 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So he was very efficient with the football, but still, he's only had 1 playoff appearance, and I just don't really see what the Dolphins were thinking when they signed Jay Cutler, other than the familiarity with Adam Gase.
Right, and I think maybe that was their reasoning. I mean, I really don't see any other reasoning other than, I guess what a lot of people are attributing the signing to and not signing Kaepernick is because of a lot of people don't want to deal with the off-season or outside football issues with Colin Kaepernick, and I don't see them as issues personally, but there are a lot of people in the NFL that think his not standing for for the flag is disrespectful, and not only disrespectful, but a lot of people don't want to sign him because of that.
Well, personally, man, I think it's really ridiculous because the reason he did that silent protest a year ago is because of the social injustice happening to people of color in America. I mean, this protest was never about him. It wasn't a publicity stunt. And whenever people have asked him about it, it's been about the families. It's about that. It's about those families who said goodbye to their loved ones for the last time. It's about those kids who never were able to graduate from elementary school or high school. So people need to really remember and understand why he did what he did. I mean, it was really brave of him, and I think maybe Colin Kaepernick will never play football again, but we'll look back at Colin Kaepernick as being a hero.
I agree with that statement. I agree. I think he really stood up for something that he believed in, and the social injustices, like you said, and I think there's really more to football than that. Yeah. Next topic we're going to discuss briefly here is the Ezekiel Elliott announcement of his suspension. He was suspended for 6 games by the league earlier this week, and it really is kind of out of the blue. A lot of people thought he was going to be suspended, weren't sure it was going to be 6 games because he's never been actually. They didn't charge him with any crimes.
Yeah, it's really a crazy situation because there's really a lot that we don't know, and I mean, definitely affects the Dallas Cowboys because he's such a dynamic player. He led the league in rushing as a rookie. He had a great career at Ohio State, and I guess we're all just trying to find the pieces. Like, he has been in some situations he should not have been in. Like, he was in that store that sold marijuana. He didn't buy anything, but just being there, what wasn't good for him. And there was that one incident where he was at a St. Patrick's Day party and he removed the girl's top, and I mean, that was obviously inappropriate.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, he's very young. He definitely needs to grow up a little bit. And I know Emmitt Smith is willing to help him. He's the Cowboys Hall of Famer. So.
Yeah, he definitely has made some poor decisions in the offseason. You know, a lot of people will agree with that. But the NFL really takes these things sometimes seriously and sometimes not seriously enough. So that's, I think, with a lot of the problem here is you know, there are people that are committing domestic acts of violence, and we have Ezekiel Elliott not necessarily charged for anything, and he's suspended 6 games. So I think maybe just a little bit more consistency in regards to the NFL and their policies, but it'll be interesting to see if he appeals the suspension. I know his lawyer is definitely going to recommend that, but I guess that will be coming up here in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that on our next episode of Let's Talk Sports by the Lake.
Yes.
But that wraps up our NFL segment. The next thing we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes is the NBA and the NBA's offseason.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports by the Lake. Now we're going to discuss the NBA. And during this last month in the NBA offseason, there's been a lot of speculation about Kyrie Irving wanting to be traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are just off their third consecutive final appearance. And some possible destinations have been the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Phoenix Suns, the New York Knicks, Miami Heat, and a few others. And what do you think about the whole trade speculation, Jake?
Well, it really took me by surprise as a Cavaliers fan. You know, I thought it came out of the blue. I thought they've worked very well together as a team. You know, Kyrie was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then LeBron came back later on. Like you just said, they've been to three consecutive finals appearances in the last 3 years. I didn't know that there was any personal issues going on the team, but you know, a lot of those things happen behind the scenes, I guess. So it really caught me off guard that he went into upper management and demanded a trade. But I guess it doesn't surprise me. It is a business. It is a sport where people are in there to make money and make fame for themselves. So I guess the reason that I'm hearing is that he wants to go to a team and be the main focal point on that team, be the one who handles the ball all the time, gets the majority of the scoring, and is the superstar on the team. You know, I personally don't agree with that. I think that the ultimate goal in basketball is to win an NBA championship. Obviously, they did that last year, but I guess Kyrie has different goals in mind. So it really, again, took me off guard. It'll be surprised to see if the Cavaliers actually do what he asked them to do, because again, he is under a contract. They don't have to trade him, but it may be in the best interest of the team to do so.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think the whole situation is really mysterious, you know, because it kind of came out of the blue, as you said. And I mean, it seemed like Kyrie and LeBron have a lot of chemistry. And whenever LeBron has spoken about Kyrie to the media, he said nothing but great things about Kyrie. He says, Kyrie can definitely take over the Cavaliers when I'm gone.
Right.
And it's just really perplexing. And I guess Kyrie wants to prove that he can lead a team by himself. And I'm sure he can, but at the same time, he gets a lot of credit for being the great player he is. You know, he's a really good scorer. He has a nice crossover. His defense could be better, but at the same time, it's just really confusing. And I think maybe a lot of it has to do with the frustration that the Cavs haven't really lured or signed any free agents this season. I mean, Derrick Rose, but you know, no really big-time free agents.
Well, there's a reason for that, and the reason being they don't have any cap space, so they're not able to go out and sign any free agents based on the financial situation that they're in. You know, they have a huge contract with LeBron James, they have a huge contract with Kyrie Irving, and they have a huge contract with Kevin Love. All of their cap space is utilized in those big three players. So, I mean, I understand Kyrie could be frustrated in that regard, but again, you know, there's only so much you can do with the amount of cap room that you have in the NBA. What team out of the list that you gave us do you think has the best chance of landing Kyrie Irving in a trade that can offer the Cavaliers, you know, some value in return?
So I think the Phoenix Suns are the best team for the Cavs to trade with because they have a lot of assets. They have Eric Bledsoe, who's a really good point guard, and they have a lot of young talent, including Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, Dragon Bender, and a few others. So they definitely have a package.
I agree.
That the Cavaliers might like or might appeal to the Cavaliers. So, I mean, we'll see if it happens, but I think this trade is really high risk, high reward because Kyrie Irving only has 2 years left on his deal, and I don't think any team wants a 2-year rental.
I agree. I don't think a lot of teams are just willing to jump on a trade like that. But you know, the talent, the upside is pretty good with Kyrie Irving, as we know. And something similar just happened with Chris Paul this offseason. They only got him. The Rockets only have him for 1 year. So I think teams are willing to do the trade. I don't know if the Cavaliers really want to do the trade. So it'll be interesting to see that in the next couple weeks before the NBA season actually starts in October. Moving on to the next topic with the NBA, this is going to be the first year that the National Basketball Association actually has sponsorship on their jerseys. You know, the Cavs have a Goodyear logo on their jersey now, along with a Nike swoosh. Obviously, Nike makes the jerseys, but Goodyear is actually the sponsor of their uniforms as of this year. So, I mean, I think it's weird to see that in professional sports. I guess in one of the elite professional sports in basketball. How do you feel about that sponsorship? I mean, I guess it's a long time coming, but it's just unique to see that now, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's something that a lot of sports do. You see that in international soccer, international football. You see that in the WNBA. So I think it's just a way for the team to connect to the community and other organizations. So I think it's really something that's really cool. It's a long time coming.
I agree. I think it's going to be a good thing for each of these communities that the teams represent, and of course, it's another way for the teams to bring in some additional revenue. You know, for their team. So that about does it for our NBA session. The next thing we're going to talk about is boxing. Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports by the Lake. We're going to discuss boxing now. There's a big fight coming up. It's been highly promoted. It is Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Conor McGregor. And this fight has been talked about for over a year now. Before the fight was even signed, you know, people were pushing for Conor McGregor, who's the face of MMA today, and Floyd Mayweather, who's been the face of boxing for a few years now. They've been pushing for this fight. They finally got the date figured out. It is going to be August 26th at 9 p.m. Of course, this is a once in a lifetime event. We've never seen this happen before in the sport of boxing or MMA. We have a professional boxer going up against a professional MMA artist, and it's going to be a boxing match. So the rules are strictly boxing. How do you feel about this, Julian? And do you think it's going to be an exciting fight, or what do you think?
I'm not really sure. I mean, Floyd Mayweather's obviously more experienced in boxing. He's been doing it his whole life, but Conor McGregor's a fiery guy. He's been really successful with the UFC, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. And we'll see how it goes. I think Floyd will probably win because he's more experienced.
Right, he has years of boxing experience under his belt.
And it might be a different story if it was a cage fight.
Yeah.
With Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. And it's really interesting because Conor McGregor is scheduled to appear on Game of Thrones, so it should be really interesting to see if his appearance in Game of Thrones is any bit comparable to his fight against Floyd Mayweather.
Right, yes. So yeah, I saw that he was going to be on Game of Thrones. That's pretty cool in terms of promoting his brand. But yes, this is a huge fight. I really think Floyd Mayweather is going to get the win in terms of the boxing standpoints. He has obviously the experience. It's not an MMA cage fight, so we'll see if Conor McGregor can bring his boxing talents into the ring. I think it's going to be. A lot of people think it's going to be a super exciting fight. I hope it is, but I don't see that happening just based on Floyd Mayweather's previous fights. He likes to dance around the ring. He doesn't like to do a lot of contact. And of course, I think Conor McGregor is going to push the contact, coming from the MMA background, but it'll definitely be really interesting to see. I have it as Floyd Mayweather winning in a decision, not a knockout or anything like that, but it'll be interesting to see. So make sure you tune into that. That's August 26th at 9 p.m. Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Conor McGregor in the world of boxing.
Now we're going to discuss a recent development in European football. Brazilian soccer star Neymar recently joined PSG, and that's Paris Saint-Germain, on a transfer worth roughly $531 million US, and that includes a 5-year contract worth $265 million. So it's one of the biggest transfers in history, and he's definitely a very dynamic player. Plays the forward position. He's a great scorer. He can pass. So he'll definitely add a lot to PSG.
I agree. I think that's a great signing for them. As you said, it was one of the biggest transfers, $531 million for him to switch clubs. I think that's crazy. I think that shows you how much money is brought in the European football industry with a $500 million transfer and a $265 million contract. So it shows how European football around the world brings in a lot of viewers, brings in a lot of fans. And obviously brings in a lot of money.
Definitely. I think, the transfer fee definitely allows for Barcelona to add some more talent with Leo Messi and Luis Suarez. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their next transaction is in the offseason and who they can bring to the club. In our last segment for today's episode of Let's Talk Sports by the Lake, we're going to discuss the Major League Baseball and some of the league leaders in terms of player statistics and some of the leaders in divisional statistics for the teams. First player we're going to talk about is Jose Altuve. He's leading the league with a .362 average. Plays for the Houston Astros, second base. Another player that's having a great year would be Nolan Arenado. He already has 100 RBIs on the season. He's a third baseman for the Colorado Rockies. And actually, just recently, he got injured by getting hit by a pitch on his hand. So the Rockies are considering him day-to-day and are not sure if he's going to be able to return anytime soon. But again, he's one of the league leaders in RBIs. And lastly, the league leader in home runs right now is Giancarlo Stanton, leading the league with 42 home runs already this year. What have you heard about Giancarlo? How's he doing this?
He's just killing it right now. For a lot of this season, we've been talking about Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger, who have been playing well. They're still playing well, but Giancarlo Stanton just broke out, and he's leading the league in home runs right now. So it's
right. He's on fire. He's been since the All-Star break. Giancarlo Stanton has really taken the league by storm once again. And as you said, the two rookies, Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger, are still playing well. They're just not playing on Giancarlo's level. The last we have is pitchers. Clayton Kershaw is still leading the league with a 2.04 ERA. He also has 15 victories so far this year. He is currently on the DL for the LA Dodgers, but I think they're going to get him back later this week. And then lastly, we have two closers that are leading the league in saves. We have Alex Colomé and Greg Holland, who both have 34 saves apiece. So those are your league leaders in terms of pitching and hitting categories. The next thing we're going to discuss is the league leaders and the division leaders in terms of teams. And I'll let you handle that, Julian.
Sure. So starting with the American League, the Red Sox lead the AL East with a 67-50 record. The Cleveland Indians lead the AL Central with the 63-52 record. the Houston Astros lead the AL West with a 72-45 record, and the Washington Nationals lead the NL East with a 70-46 record, and the Chicago Cubs lead the NL Central with the 61-55 record, and the LA Dodgers, who are really hot right now, are leading the NL West with the 83-34 record.
You're absolutely correct on the Dodgers. 83-34 to this date. I think that's an incredible record right now. As you can see, none of the other teams are even close to 80 wins. The next being the Astros with 72. They've won 8. The Dodgers have won 8 out of their last 10 games. They've really came on since the All-Star break. They've really taken over the league. A lot of that is due to their great pitching staff. They have 4 great starters. Plus, they have a lot of young and up and coming hitters, as we mentioned with Cody Bellinger earlier. In the American League, the Astros are still leading the way with 72 victories. They've cooled off since the All-Star break, but it will be definitely interesting to see if any of the other teams in the AL West can catch them. I highly doubt it. The AL Central is very close with the Indians leading 63 wins right now. Of course, you have the Minnesota Twins, the Chicago White Sox, and the Kansas City Royals in that division, all with similar records and are still in the chase for the AL Central title. And last but not least, the NL Central is very close as well. The Chicago Cubs are leading with 61 victories, but as I just checked last night, the local team around here, the Pittsburgh Pirates, are actually only back by 2 games. So it'll be interesting to see if the Pirates can make a postseason push here in the last couple months of the season. Of course, they still have one of my favorite players, Andrew McCutchen, and it'll be really, really interesting to see if the Cubs can hang on and get back to the World Series.
Yeah, and the Pirates actually still have Garrett Cole, who many thought was going to be traded during the trade deadline.
Right, yes. We talked about during the trade deadline, him and Kutch remained with the Pirates. Sure. So I think they still have the talent to do it. It'll just be whether they can put it together in time to catch the Cubs.
Yeah, we did talk about the NL West on one of our previous shows. Like the LA Dodgers are obviously leading that division convincingly, but there's also the Colorado Rockies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. We mentioned a few Colorado Rockies, Greg Holland and Nolan Arenado. So that division's like really good. Like the Rockies and the Diamondbacks will be leading other divisions.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to think about.
Yes, the NL West has been the best record or the best division in baseball in 2017. As we discussed, you got the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and the Dodgers all really having phenomenal years. Yeah. It'll be fun to watch and see who comes out of the NL for the World Series this year. One of my favorite teams, the Cleveland Indians, just made a big move here after the trade deadline. They acquired an outfielder by the name of Jay Bruce. When they acquired him, he had 29 home runs and 75 RBI, which now leads the Indians outfield and the Indians team in terms of both of those statistics. So I'm glad that they made a move, and it'll be interesting to see if they can get back to the World Series this year as well.
Yeah, and just a question for you, back to the AL West for a second. So did you hear about Carlos Correa's injury?
Yes, I did see that he was injured, and I'm not sure how long is he going to be out for, do you know?
I read somewhere that it said that he would be out 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks. So pretty much the rest of the regular season then.
Yeah, so Jose Altuve will definitely have to keep up the pace.
Right. If the Astros, want to win that division and they want to make it far into the playoffs, they're going to need Carlos Correa back. He's one of the up and coming shortstops that have really taken the league by storm.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, that about does it for episode 5 of Let's Talk Sports by the Lake. This is my co-host, Julian Howe. Again, I'm your host, Jake Bartko, and thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.